Welcome back. We begin now in South Africa, where police is yet to arrest anyone linked to the murder of Hilary Gardee. The 28-year-old South African woman is the daughter of former Economic Freedom Fighters Secretary General Godrich Gardee. The murder has attracted widespread interest in the country, and the EFF has vowed to ensure that justice is done.
Now we'll be looking into this story as to getting the actual details of what's happening and what the latest on this story is. And joining us is our South African journalist, editor, and correspondent for News Central, Dianne Hawker. Good morning, Dianne. Thank you for joining us. Dianne, the police minister vowed that those involved in the crime should be arrested within 72 hours. Now we know that time has lapsed. What else is happening? Is there any new information as regards this death?
No arrests and no new information, unfortunately. I think it was a very bold statement for the police minister to make that there would be an arrest within 72 hours. In South Africa, we've had a number of cases involving gender-based violence and murders of people, and oftentimes it can take months or sometimes even years for people to be arrested. One of the most prominent cases that we're dealing with at the moment is the Senzo Meyiwa murder. And the police at the time had also made a promise that there would be swift arrests in that case. But when we're looking at the situation now, it took several years before anyone was actually held accountable. So I thought it was quite strange that they had made that statement, knowing that it isn't always possible to make arrests, especially when there isn't an obvious suspect. Like in this case, there isn't an obvious suspect as to who might have killed Hilary Gardee, like a partner or a friend. At the moment, the evidence seems to be pointing to some kind of a robbery that took place, and that she was dumped about 40 kilometers away from where she ordinarily stays. So that also could leave it quite wide open as to who might have picked her up and why they might have dumped her such a great distance away from where she actually originates from.
All right, now let's look at, a little political angle to this. The EFF has been very vocal about the case, with the leader, Julius Malema, saying the killers got the wrong one. But, that statement hasn't, sat well with a lot of people. Why do you think so?
Yes, absolutely. I think some people question what he was trying to, get at. The EFF have, since the beginning of this incident, been quite vocal, saying that they will keep a very close eye on what happens with the court case. And if they have to do their own investigation, they will do so themselves. And when he said that, they got the wrong one, he was kind of indicating, that the EFF would continue to keep a very close eye on this. However, some people on social media have commented to say that comment does seem to minimize the pain and the suffering of other people whose family members have been killed, to say, are there other ones who are the right ones to have been killed, questioning why he would make that statement, considering that, there is a relatively high murder rate in South Africa and also a relatively high gender-based violence rate in this country. People saying that he shouldn't be sort of singling out this case when there are so many other people who have experienced the same thing in the country.
Give us a sense. You're a woman, I'm a woman. Give us a sense of what it feels like to be a woman in South Africa in this period. You've talked about how there's an increase in gender-based violence. How safe is it for women?
Well, it's quite difficult, to be quite honest with you, being a woman in South Africa in certain circumstances. You always have to be wary of your surroundings. You often see people discussing on social media and even within friendship groups kind of tactics that they keep. For example, yesterday I saw a thread where people were saying, when you go to a parking garage, you should be quite vigilant to make sure that you're not attacked and or kidnapped. Stay off your phone if possible. Take your keys out while you're still in the store. Some people talking about how they sometimes hold their keys within their hands so that if anybody does attack them, they can gouge them out. I think it's also quite difficult because a lot of the gender-based violence and the prominent cases that we see do originate within relationships. So they are intimate partner violence, in addition to being gender-based violence. One of the prominent cases that we saw, which is actually going back to court next week, for example, saw a woman killed, a pregnant woman. She was 8 months pregnant. Tshegofatso Pule being killed by her own partner. He hired someone to actually murder her so that he could carry on with a separate relationship. And when you see those kinds of stories, it does make you, very concerned about the state of the country. And a lot of people say, it's men of South Africa really don't have a positive relationship with women in South Africa, that they hate us. And it's difficult, of course, when you see these kind of murders taking place, and it makes you ask yourself questions as to your level of your own safety.
Yeah, I definitely saw that Twitter conversation yesterday. Now, quickly share with us, what have the police discovered about the items stolen from Hillary?
Yes, I think that this has been quite an interesting development in relation to money that was taken from her account. The indications are that there were e-wallets, which is essentially, I don't know if you guys have that in Nigeria, but it's a method of banking where you can basically send money from a bank account to a cell phone number, and it can be any cell phone number. And shortly before her passing, there was 1,300 rand that was sent via e-wallet to her cell phone number. Now, usually there is a limit of around 1,000 to 1,500 rand on that. So it could be that she had come close to reaching that maximum limit. And there is a suggestion that the money was not being drawn for her personal use, but rather being drawn for her to being sure that she was being forced to give this money to her attackers. And the reason that there's this suggestion is because there have been previous crimes in which this has happened.
Thank you very much. I think these are very important conversations to have. Quite sad, but we see that around the world, not just in South Africa. The lives of women have been threatened. It's why organizations would come up with things like International Day of Gender Violence against gender-based violence. Every year from November 25th to 10th of December, we see people around the world canvassing against gender-based violence. And we hope that conversations more like this would spark up people's interest and for them to see the need for us to have all these important conversations. But thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.